the Los Angeles Rams, they traded for Matthew Stafford earlier on. I think earlier this month they traded for Matthew Stafford. It was a big time deal. Jared Goff to the Lions. What do you think the Rams ceiling is with Matthew Stafford now at quarterback? Because last year they went 10-6. They had the 22nd ranked offense and the first ranked defense. People thought Jared Goff held that team back, and I think he did to an extent because you could just see it was not meshing well. But now the Rams have a quarterback who is considered to be a very talented quarterback, even though he has underachieved in his career. People are thinking this is a situation where Stafford is going to take off. What is the Rams ceiling with Stafford at QB?
I think they could be a Super Bowl team, and I thought they were a sleeper Super Bowl team last year towards the end of the season when that defense came alive. They're bringing back a lot of the same defense. Obviously, they lost Brandon Staley, which will be a hole that they'll have to look to replace. So that'll be interesting to see how they figure out that situation. But the defense is going to be one of the best units in the league, and you have Sean McVay, who is one of the most creative play callers in the league. I'm excited to see what he can do with Matthew Stafford, who, despite not putting the wins in the win column in Detroit, he was one of the more talented quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion. So now pairing him with McVay, with a good running game, with Cam Akers and those receivers out wide, I'm really interested to see what they can do. I think they could be a Super Bowl team.
I'm not that high on the Rams coming into this season because I think a team that everybody is sleeping on is the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are going to be back next season. The Seahawks are going to be back next season. That division is the toughest division in football. J.J. Watt signed with the Cardinals. So that division is going to be extremely tough. And Matthew Stafford, to this point, has not shown the ability to win big games. He has had fourth quarter comebacks. He has had game-winning drives, but he has not won meaningful games. And a lot of people are giving him that pass, but I'm not going to give him that pass. I know he's a talented quarterback. I know he has one of the strongest arms. I think he's a great human being. I've read what he's written in the Player Tribune, but another guy who put up a lot of great stats in Washington, who's now in Minnesota, was Kirk Cousins. But Kirk Cousins can't win big games. Sometimes you could put up big-time stats, but not be able to win the big game. And now, this free agency, Troy Hill is a free agent. The Rams, they got some holes to fill. They're not a perfect team right now. They got some holes to fill. They're way over the salary cap. So I don't know how they're going to make everything work. The offensive line is going to be regressing, especially since Andrew Whitworth is up there in age. Austin Blythe is a free agent. So there are a lot of holes to fill. John Johnson, a starting safety who's been phenomenal, is a free agent. They're not gonna be able to bring a lot of those guys back, and they don't have a first round pick. So they have to hit on these later picks in the draft. I'm not sure if they can do that. Matthew Stafford now has a running game. He has a defense. I mean, with the Detroit Lions, these were the defensive ranks: 32nd, 19th, 23rd, 27th, 15th, 3rd 1 year in 2014, 23rd, 13th, 21st, 16th, 26th, and 32nd. So the defense was always bad. And that year in 2014, when they went 11-5, Joe Lombardi was their offensive coordinator, and it's safe to say that Stafford was never on the same page as him. Stafford in 2014 threw 22 touchdowns and 12 interceptions with Lombardi as OC. Golden Tate and Calvin Johnson were starting receivers, and Lombardi got fired after a 1-6 start the very next year in 2015. Stafford threw 12 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and then once Lombardi was fired, he threw 20 touchdowns and 4 interceptions with Jim Bob Cooter. So the years that Detroit had their best defense, Stafford didn't play his best, so they weren't able to maximize on that. This is a brand new system, right? How is he going to fare in his first year in this McVay offense? Not only that, but Stafford has been good. He has put up great stats, but his knock is late game interceptions, and he still throws them. Yeah, that is not going away from Stafford. Is it possible he's going to cost the Rams some games late because he throws an interception? Yes. Because of that, I'm not entirely sold. My team in the NFC West is the San Francisco 49ers. If they are healthy, if Jimmy G is healthy, they're going to win that division.
Well, I mean, that division is going to be the toughest division in the league. Like you said, the Cardinals would be favored in a bunch of divisions across the league, and they're probably going to be picked to finish last in that division, if not third. I don't see them being selected any higher than third in that division. And I'd like to, come back to this when all the dust settles after free agency, see how the Rams fill out those holes that you mentioned. But I do trust Matt Stafford coming into the system. He's a smart guy. He's shown at the NFL level, just reading about him, he's a good football mind. Pairing him with McVay, I think, is going to be a really great marriage. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think he'll be a good fit with the Rams. He has that defense, like you said, that he hadn't had in Detroit with Matt Patricia the last few years. That defense has been pitiful, and he hasn't really had a chance to, excel with that team. So I think that coming to the Rams with this supporting cast that's better than I think he's ever had in Detroit, I think it's going to be a great situation for him to at least prove himself. Like, this will be a shot to prove that he's not just a loser, and he can really be a winning quarterback at the NFL level, and he was just in a bad situation.
I mean, Stafford has put up great stats. I think he is a really good quarterback. I think he's a great quarterback. But there are a lot of great quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think Stafford is a top 10 quarterback right now in the NFL. And because of that, how far can a non-top 10 quarterback take you if you don't have the loaded roster for it to happen, and especially a guy who does not take care of the ball like Matthew Stafford? There are legitimate concerns. I said this when the trade happened. I don't think going from Goff to Stafford was a crazy difference. Like, I think Goff is here. I think Stafford is here. I don't think it's a discrepancy like this big. I don't think it's like going from Watson to Goff. Like, it's not like that. Stafford, even though he has been losing and people, are giving him a lot of excuses for losing in Detroit, he's had his hand in losing a lot of those games and those interceptions. His interceptions are really high for the most part. So because of that, I'm not sure where they're going to be. I want Stafford to succeed because I've been a Stafford defender. But in this division with the Rams, 49ers, Stafford is the third best quarterback in the division. I think it's Wilson, Kyler, Stafford, and Jimmy G are really neck and neck to me. I would take it. Really just depends either one of them because I'm really high on Jimmy G, and I think he's going to have a bounce back season this upcoming year. So because of that, I just don't know where the Rams fit. 9-7 in 2019, 10-6 in 2020. Now we'll see what they do in 2021. But I'm not extremely sold on where the Rams are going to be.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they're a lock to be a Super Bowl team by any means, but I would feel, better about saying they're going to make the Super Bowl than saying they're going to miss the playoffs, personally. Even as tough as that division is, I think that if for no other reason than the defense, which has been consistently solid no matter what's going on there, I think the defense will at least help propel them, even if Stafford struggles a little bit. And I think it'll be I don't know if it'll be a seamless transition, but I think it will be a good transition, and I do think that Matthew Stafford's talent will elevate that offense.
The defense was ranked 15th in 2019. They were ranked first because of Brandon Staley. I think he had a huge part in that. Troy Hill also ascended. Troy Hill's probably gone. John Johnson's probably gone. Not having Brandon Staley, Troy Hill, and John Johnson, I think they're not going to be the first-ranked defense next season.
No, I don't think they have to be the first-ranked defense, but going from having the 31st, 32nd ranked defense in Detroit to I think it's pretty safe to assume the Rams are going to have at least a top 15
I think they'll have a
defense.
top 15 defense, but even so, I don't think just because Stafford's going from the 32nd ranked defense to the 15th, he's going to be so much better. I look more towards the offense. And in Detroit, even though they didn't have good defenses, they had a pretty good offense. Last season, I was watching the game versus the Cardinals, the season opener. They blew a lead versus the Cardinals, and Stafford almost threw a pick six. But it was dropped. But it would have been a pick six. He has those moments. And I think Rams fans are going to figure out those moments sooner rather than later. I think the good outweighs the cons with Stafford. But at the end of the day, you don't have first-round picks. They're banking that Stafford is what everybody has been propping him up to be.
Yeah.
And what they believe he can be.
In all fairness, they haven't been picking in the first round for, I think, 8 seasons, or they won't have picked in the first round for 8 seasons. I think they haven't picked in the first round for 4 years now going into this upcoming draft, 4 or 5 seasons going into this upcoming draft. So, they've done a pretty good job finding talent in the later rounds. I think that the biggest improvement, as much as I think the defense will be a big improvement, I think the biggest improvement is coaching. And I'm really excited to see what I said it earlier this year. I think that it would be really interesting to see what McVay could do with a more talented quarterback. And I'm excited to see, this is like going in Madden and getting to pick out your roster. He's finally getting a chance to play with a more talented quarterback. I'm excited to see what he can draw up and let him loose.